Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some Swedish biscuits. These are called Pepparkakor or Pepparkakor, and they are usually made in Sweden around Christmas time. They're a spiced biscuit, a sort of ginger thin or a ginger snap biscuit. So they're rolled very, very thinly and they're very crisp and crunchy. Now, as I said, they're usually made at around Christmas time. I'm making them early for two reasons. One is to make people aware of them if they want to make them for Christmas, and the other is that I recently bought a vacuum sealing machine to seal food in vacuum bags, and I want to test that with some biscuits to see how long they will stay fresh once they're vacuum sealed. But having said they're a Christmas biscuit, for me this sort of biscuit is good at any time, particularly in the autumn time as we're coming up to now. So they're quite simple to make, and the ingredients are 150 grams, which is 10.5 tablespoons of butter, and I'm using unsalted butter. I have 250 grams of sugar. I'm using half caster sugar and half soft brown sugar, but you can use whichever you want. I have 250 grams of sugar, which is 1 cup and 1/4 cup. 450 grams of plain flour, which is 3.5 cups of flour. I have 50 millilitres, 50 grams, 2.5 tablespoons of golden syrup, 20 grams, 1 tablespoon of black treacle or molasses. And then the spices, I have 1 tablespoon of ground ginger, 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of ground cloves, 1 teaspoon of ground cardamom, and a teaspoon of baking soda. Now, if you don't have ground cardamom or you can't get it, then you could substitute another spice. I have seen some people use allspice instead. It's a different flavour to cardamom, but it will work just as well, I think. So I also have 100 millilitres of water, which is 1/3 cup plus 4 teaspoons. So the first thing we're going to do is to melt the butter and the sugar with the golden syrup and the black treacle over a heat until it's all melted. So I'll put that onto the heat, and with the heat on I'm going to stir that until it's all completely melted. As you can see, that's melting quite nicely, and I'm stirring it to make sure that the butter gets incorporated into the other ingredients. So with that melted, I'm going to add in the spices and stir those around to get those mixed in. And once they're all mixed in, I'm going to put in the baking soda as well. And mix that around and turn the heat off. And then the next and last thing to do in making this biscuit dough is to add the flour. And for that, I'm going to put our wet mixture into a bowl. I could do it all in a saucepan, but I'm going to do it for ease of showing you on the video. I'm going to put it into a bowl. And give it another good stir around. And then I'm going to add the flour, but in maybe 3 or 4 additions, stirring around each time until it's all incorporated. Adding the water as well. So that's 2 additions, and I'll add the remaining water and mix that in. Then some more flour. and the rest of the flour. And then with that all mixed in, I need to chill that in the fridge. And to do that, I'm going to tip it out. It's sticky and quite wet, as you can see. I'm going to tip it out onto some plastic wrap. And then I'm going to wrap it up like that. And I'm going to chill it for at least 2 to 3 hours, and preferably overnight. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to chill mine for 3 hours, and then I'm going to use a quarter of it to make the pepparkakor, and I'll leave the remaining 3/4 to chill overnight and make the rest tomorrow. But I'll be back with you in 3 hours when this is chilled and we're ready to go on to the next step. Well, it's actually been about 8 hours since I put the cookie dough into the fridge for the pepparkakor, and that means I can count that as overnight, so I can roll it all out. But I've divided it into 4 equal pieces of about 257 grams. And what I've floured my work surface, and I've lined a baking tray, or several baking trays, with parchment paper, and I've also had my oven preheating at 200 Celsius, that's 180 Celsius with a fan, 400 Fahrenheit, so these will be ready to go into the oven. So what I'm going to do is to roll this out, and I want to roll it out as thin as I can, so 1/8 of an inch or even thinner. So I have here 2 rolling guides, which are 1/8 of an inch, or if I can read that, 3 millimeters in depth. I'm just going to roll this out now. It's a bit hard at the moment because it's been refrigerated for so long, but that will actually make it easier to roll because it is quite a sticky dough still. And so with that rolled out, I'm going to cut that out into shapes, and I'm going to use quite small cutters. You can do any shape you want and any size you want. And I'm going to put them onto the baking tray. Well, I've rolled out about half of the cookie dough, and I have filled 3 baking sheets or baking trays with small cutouts. As I say, you can make these any size you want, but I've decided to go for small ones, as you can see, and I'm going to bake those in the oven for about 5 minutes. I'm going to pay very close attention because they will burn very quickly, and after 5 minutes I'm going to take them out and put them on a baking tray and let them cool down, and then I'll come back and show you the results. So the Pepparkakor cookies baked. I actually took the first tray out of the oven after 5 minutes and decided that it wasn't baked enough, so I put it back in for a further 5 minutes. So I've actually baked these for between 8 and 10 minutes, and they seem to be nice and crisp, and they bake quite well. So it's until they begin to change colour and go slightly darker that you need to bake them for. So this is what they look like, and I'll have a taste of this little one. Nice and crunchy, and has a lovely spicy flavour to it. Yes, that's very, very good. You can adjust the amount of spice that you put in. So for instance, if you don't want as much clove, you don't have to put 2 teaspoons of clove in, and that will then change the balance of the spices. You get slightly more ginger coming through maybe, or slightly more cinnamon, but these taste very good just as they are, I have to say. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to this recipe, and I'll put a link to it below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.